Welcome to the That's the Last podcast with me, Shaun, with Stuart.
Yeah, I'm Stuart, the dad. He's the lad. And today we've got Charlie Hyman joining us. Charlie is the CEO of Bloomsbury Football, a charity-based football club in London, England. They have around 3,000 children and young adults on their books. And Charlie himself is a sports mentor and next-gen leader for 2021. We get into all of that on today's episode. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy our show. Right, Shaun, Charlie is just about to join us now. He's in the waiting room, so we'll just pop him in, and then you can say hello to him when he comes on. So he's going to be coming in any second. Here he comes.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Charlie, perfect. Shaun, what are you saying?
Welcome to the That's the Last show.
Can you hear me well, yeah?
Yeah, we can. Did you hear Shaun then? All right, yeah?
Yeah, all good. Is my sound coming through all right?
Your sound is perfect, mate, yeah.
Good quality, cool. I've done a few where I've stuck in my AirPods, and then recently I've been told by a few, I guess, of the more professional podcast people that actually your computer audio is probably better mic than your AirPods. So.
Oh, is it?
Apparently.
I don't know. We're not one of those professional podcasts. I don't worry
you've got also, I can see you've got sound equipment and all sorts. I feel left out.
Don't worry about it, mate.
Mic or anything.
Yeah, this is just where we record it. And I'm at my house and Shaun's at my girlfriend's house because I've got work early in the morning. So I
can see your football shirts in the background. They're impressive.
Yes, mate. The Jersey Box send us them.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
I won a competition for one of them.
Yeah.
And there's two of them on there that he just sent us because he liked the podcast and he said, I wanted to do something. I think it's really good what he's doing. And he just sent us that. And then we've got that little snood. I bought that. It's Costel Pantaleimons one.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's what he wore in training.
Big snood then for his long neck.
That's it, yeah. So anyway, I don't know if you've listened to our podcast or anything, but I'm Stuart. He's Shaun.
Yeah.
And like I told you in the email, we started the podcast because Shaun wanted to do it, and we just try to encourage him and show him that he might not be academic, but no matter what, if he tries his hardest, he can achieve stuff, and hard work will eventually pay off. And he loves sport, so you were a pretty good fit with being a CEO of a football club, NextGen 2021 sports leader, I believe.
Done your research,
and a sports mentor. For something that I don't fully understand.
Yeah, that is right.
That's right. So, how did it all start for you? Where did you start?
Good question. I guess I'd probably go back to helping out my younger brother's football team as a volunteer assistant coach in the park. Was probably where I first was like, wow, I really enjoy coaching. Obviously, I played football when I was younger, but everyone's like, oh, which academy? Like, where'd you? Never at any good level. Like, school team was probably the highest level I ever played, or like with my mates in the park. So yeah, definitely never. Not one of those backstories of like broke my leg, but I was gonna be a pro for Arsenal. No, not even that. Never anywhere near. So yeah, I started helping out coaching my younger brother's team. The coach who was leading the group at the time worked for Fulham Football Club. And I basically ended up doing like a summer work experience with him, going around to all sorts of different sessions, and got a really good idea of, I guess, different sorts of kids, different sorts of sessions, age groups, coaching, and just absolutely loved it. While I then went off to uni, but while I was at uni, I continued, I guess, coaching on the side, and made sure that I guess kept up with being involved in football as much as possible. Finished uni and still decided, definitely want to do football or work in football. And kind of the two key things that I'd seen that were, I I guess the reason that I started Bloomsbury was one, I guess the quality of the programs and grassroots football in general was poor, and there wasn't really a reason for it. So not having good facilities, rubbish equipment, poor organization, coaches that weren't qualified, all these things which should be good but weren't. And the second thing was that there was barriers to access these opportunities, a lot of the time financial. So kids were being priced out of taking part in teams because the membership fees were high, or like they couldn't afford to buy a new pair of boots every time their feet grew, or the team's kit. So it was kind of marrying up those two things of, let's run something that's really, really high quality, but also make sure that it's accessible to everyone, no matter what they can afford. And that was kind of what was born out of.
Yeah, that is quality, because when Shaun was little, he used to want to be a goalkeeper. And obviously Shaun has learning difficulties. So when he was 5 and 6, his communication and his verbal skills were next to zero. And so we'd go to his local team, and by the end of the session every week, he was just leaning against the fence, because he'd start off in goal. Some mouthy little kid would be like, he's rubbish him. And then because that mouthy little kid's dad was the coach, they'd yank Shaun out of goal, and then he would just stand by the fence. All confidence just shook. We went to a tournament one time, didn't we, Shaun?
Yeah.
And you were in goals, weren't you?
Yeah.
Gets to a penalty shootout at the end, and instead of just letting him be in goals, the same mouthy kid said, I want to go in goals. His dad stuck him in goals and then made Shaun take a penalty when he didn't even know which foot to kick with at the time. And so after that, I thought, I'm not paying a £5 a week to actually just watch him get his confidence drilled like that. So he plays rugby now. But for a bit, from being like 7 or 8, he didn't really play any team sports until he went to high school, outside of school.
Do you think that's mainly because the people running it didn't know how to organise the team the right way, how to coach well, how to cater to young people of different abilities, interests, just a lack of experience really and training?
I think it's a lack of understanding of other kids and the need to win. Within grassroots football, they just all want to win at all costs. Whereas Shaun's rugby team, they very rarely win, but the kids all enjoy it. And obviously they don't enjoy losing.
Yeah, of course.
They've all rushed to come back after lockdown, and they enjoy being around each other. And it's a good little team. It's just there's loads of clubs around here, and we play a sport against teams that basically just have a sport, that one club. If you go Marple or places in Wigan, they live and breathe rugby, whereas around here, we live in Sale in Manchester. It's all just football, really. Kids don't really play rugby.
No, I think that's an interesting point around like winning versus development, because as you say, like there's too many clubs, and it's usually from the coach or the dad out there who are just like, right, we're going to win every game. We're going to win the whatever D-League under-8s grassroots football competition this season because I'm going to feel good and think I'm the next Jose Mourinho if we win it. But actually, only literally less than 1%, probably even less than that, of those kids are going to play football at any decent level when they're older. And for them, it's actually about enjoying it, having a nice time with their mates, getting to know people, exercising, staying fit. And they want to win, as you say, like everyone wants, they don't like losing, but actually, if they're happy and enjoy it with their friends, like you said, obviously Shaun does with his rugby team, that's the most important thing. And that is a case of having the right people running these organisations.
Yeah, Shaun's rugby club is really good. Trafford Metrovics, it's literally around the corner from our house. But I was wary about him going. But one of the dads at Shaun's school said, if he wants to learn, bring him down. And the first thing I said to them, I said, he'll drift out wide away from the other players. And they said, no, he won't. We won't let him. And for about 3 sessions, they would say, Elliot, swap with Shaun. So every time he drifted out wide, they'd make sure he got back in the middle and they'd make sure he was involved. And on one of his first games, my mum came to watch and everything. It was like a big family outing because Shaun was playing. And he came off at the end and he said, Nana, he didn't sub me off. And normally he was just used to getting the hook all the time and only playing like 10 or 15 minutes, where they just let him have a run around for 80 minutes.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And that takes, that takes experience coaching to notice that and see that and go, you know what, he's isolated on the wing, he's not really involved. I'm going to on purpose switch this player or this child this, because he's going to benefit from being exposed to like the middle of the pitch where he's super involved. Or yeah, I know this week that I'm going to give him the whole game. Doesn't matter if we're losing, doesn't matter if my best player's off. No, for the benefit of him this week, we're going to make sure that kind of he feels like he's a member of the team and is valued by everyone else, because he's going to get the full game. And it's hard to change that mindset, because as you say, like most of these coaches are there and they just want to win the game. But yeah, if we can, as a nation, kind of change the mindset of most of these grassroots coaches to thinking a bit differently and actually thinking about, well, what does the young person want? What's going to be most beneficial for them? And then we can develop. But as long as it's all about the coach, yeah, it's not a nice environment for the kids.
Yeah, no, Sean's coach is quality. But you've got a question about this, haven't you, Sean?
How do you make sure disabled or vulnerable children are able?
Or how do you make sure that disabled or vulnerable children are involved?
It's a really good question. So it's actually something we're specifically looking at the moment. I had a call with one of our team who's leading on our kind of disability football program at the moment. So what we're looking at is I'm sure you're probably more clued up on this than me. There's almost a stigma around this child is disabled, therefore he needs to go to disabled football sessions, where actually most children or most people who are clinically classified as disabled are actually perfectly able to get involved in a mainstream football session. Yeah. And that's something we're finding. So, for example, at schools, okay, this kid is an SEN kid. Well, great, but he's got whatever, something that puts him into that category in school. But actually, when he's playing football or sport, he's just the same as all the other kids. He might need a little bit of extra attention because his concentration is not as good and you might need to explain something twice. But really, he's just the same as everyone else is on the pitch. So what we're looking at is how many of these children that come along and take part in disability sessions can we actually work with to a point, or just put them in straight away into the mainstream programs, because that is ideally what's best for the kid. I think in terms of resources, it takes a bit more. So for an organization to, for example, run disability specific, we're talking pan disability here, football sessions, you need more staff per child than you do for a normal group session, because they have different needs. Obviously, there's a huge spectrum of needs even within a pan disability group. But I think there is not a problem, but almost, I guess, a common perception at the moment that like you have mainstream football for kids who have no disability at all, and then disability football, and everyone who's disabled goes to disability football. And I think actually, honestly, probably most of the young people who go to disability football, with a bit of help, some improved confidence, with the coach having the experience and understanding what the requirements and additional needs of their disability are, they could participate in the mainstream programs. So that is definitely something we're looking at the moment. One other specific one around blind football. So we have been speaking to someone called Azim Amir. I don't know if you're aware of him. No. He plays for the England blind football team. And he's a massive advocate for basically disability sport as a whole, but specifically blind football. And something we want to do is obviously run blind football sessions, but then get children who aren't blind to play with a blindfold on, to experience what it's like to be blind. Yeah. Because a lot of the issues, as you said, with Shaun when he was 5 and kids shouting at him for not being good in goal, is actually that there's a lack of understanding and empathy from young people who aren't disabled towards kids that are disabled. So how can we educate them and say, well, you try playing football blind. Oh, well, it's a lot harder than you think. It's also a great experience of, oh, how do I communicate with my teammates? I'm going to massively improve my communication skills if I can't see what I'm doing and I need to kind of rely on others or someone standing by the side of the pitch who's giving me instructions. So I think there's a lot of work to be done around trying to get kids who are actually able to participate in mainstream, but have been kind of labelled as disabled and not able to get involved. And then there's also a lot of work to be done around educating kids who are in mainstream sport that actually they're really not that different. And there's lots to be learned from those who are differently abled or have, let's say, are specifically blind or deaf or whatever it may be. So yeah, we're really keen to push that. We, as an organization, started by just running football sessions that were open to everyone. Obviously, if you run that, you're probably going to get able-bodied boys turn up because that's what's most likely. We then decided, well, if we're only running that, we're only sort of opening our services to less than half of the population, essentially, of young people. So the next thing was we need to get girls there, because that's half of the population. So we set up specific girls sessions because that was what we thought was the best way of getting girls along, because a girl who's not particularly confident isn't going to rock up to a group which is 16 boys and one girl. So that then took shape, and we've now got a big girls program. And then it was like, well, we've got all this mainstream stuff, but we're not offering anything for those that aren't, not necessarily can't participate, but may not be ready to, or aren't confident enough to, or need a bit of extra help. So that was kind of why we are basically launching these disability sessions, but with an aim not to keep them as disability. It's almost a stepping stone of come along to this, and as soon as we can, we want to push you into kind of the mainstream programs.
Yeah, that's quality. That is really good, that, because like with Shaun, I never really said Shaun was disabled until recently. And it was, I've been with my girlfriend now about 3 years, and it's her. She says, Stuart, you don't understand, like, you understand Shaun really well, but you don't quite understand that he is disabled, and he is a lot, and he does take more than the other kids because he's got all his arms and all his legs. It's just his brain doesn't function the same way as everybody else's, and things don't get filed the same way in his brain. So for Shaun, it takes a lot more concentration to kick a ball than it does another kid, or to even catch the ball at rugby. It takes more, and he's always exhausted at the end of the school week. And a counsellor said, imagine going to work 3 times a day. And I said, why? Because that's what Shaun has to do with his brain. He has to look at things 3 times before it goes in. He has to think about them over and over again for him to stay in. And that's his disability. But I never really saw it as being disabled. So saying that, then you say like disabled children, there must be people like Shaun who actually play professional football, because the autistic spectrum is so broad now. There must be other professionals in the lower leagues or even in the Premier League that are just not confident in saying that I've got this issue and I find it more difficult. But if somebody would come out and say it, it would probably encourage more children to come out and play. But do you think the parents hinder sometimes? Because obviously I'm victim of that. Shaun's confidence gets knocked. I don't want to fly off the handle at some coach and start threatening him because he's not listening or not treating my kid the way I want him to be treated. So do you think there's anything that we can do to encourage parents of disabled or vulnerable children to come to sessions at the local club, whether it's your club or just a local club wherever they live in the country?
It's a really good question. I think obviously parents play a key role, because they decide where the young person goes, which sessions they turn up to, which team. I think especially depending on the level of disability and the age, the parent is also actively involved. So for example, when we run like a disability football session, the parents will kind of be very active in the session, because even if there's like one coach per 4 or 5 kids, each kid might need a lot more individual attention than that one coach can give. Plus, this is the biggest part, is that there isn't experience from 99% of coaches to understand and deal with the big range of disabilities that are out there, as well as understanding where on the spectrum for each disability each person or each child is in that session. So for a parent to find a club which has a coach that can, first of all, provide a great session for a mainstream group of kids where there's varying abilities, behavior, concentration, but also understand maybe that they've got someone who's particularly autistic or someone who has Down syndrome in the same session, and understand what their needs are when they kind of show certain triggers and signs that mean that they're not focused or like disappointed or happy. It's really, really tough. And I guess your point about like a Premier League player coming out or someone with some status coming and saying, you know what, actually, I am autistic, only slightly, and it doesn't really affect my football, but I've been diagnosed with this, would help, because awareness is the biggest thing. And raising the awareness of actually, these are all the types of disabilities, and educating people on, well, this is what this disability means, and this is what this child's behavior might look like if they have this or do this. Because as you say, most adults don't know. If you ask someone like, well, what's an autistic child like? Don't know. What is autism? You might get from most of the population. So it really is a huge amount, like there's a huge amount of education that needs to be done. And as a parent, I'm sure you have been through this as well, but you will struggle to find clubs, sessions, programs that are suitable for your child, and where you're confident the person running it actually has a real understanding of what your child needs.
Yeah, definitely. But do you think that comes from the FA though, with the training? Because when I spoke to Shaun's rugby coaches about him, they said the first session that the RFU send us on is inclusion for vulnerable children. So
that's
the
interesting.
FA, the FA not do
that? So they would have inclusion, but their inclusion might touch for a few minutes maximum on disabilities, a touch for a few minutes on religion, race, age, etc., all the different I guess categories that come under inclusion. But on the mainstream pathway of football coaching, there's not more than a few minutes really spoken about disabilities. I mean, there is some kind of sort of disability sports provision training out there. There's a few independent organizations that do it, but realistically, most coaches have no clue. One, that there is the training there, or two, they haven't been on the courses, so don't understand it. I definitely think it is something the FA should be pushing more of, because really anyone that coaches a group of young people should be at least at the very minimum aware of all the different types of disabilities, the needs that they have, and how they might incorporate them into the session. Because if you coach a group of 15 kids aged 8, it's likely that probably 2 of them have some sort of disability. They might not even notice, but they should at least be aware of what they are and what those needs might be.
Yeah. I was speaking to a mum at rugby, and her son, well, her husband is the coach, and her son plays for the team as well. And she said, "Oh, I didn't even realize your Shaun was SEN." I said, "Have you never spoke to him?" And she said, "No, why?" I said, "Because only when you speak to him would you realize." I said, "Because he walks and
not visible,
talks,
yeah,
but his speech is restricted, and his communication skills, and then he struggles. Like, so sometimes if there's a new coach, he'll say, 'I feel sick,' and I say, 'No, you don't feel sick, Shaun. You're nervous.' And that's fine, because you don't know this man, but you have to participate." I know that sometimes they just let him sit out because he says, "I feel sick."
Yeah. Again, and that comes back to that coach not understanding and knowing that, like, when he says he feels sick, this is what he actually feels. And it is that, again, every child's different as well. So someone with exactly the same kind of disability might say something else, but mean the same thing. So it is tough. And I guess back to the point, the parent, like, you do have to be involved, because you know Shaun better than his coach will. So you can have that conversation with the coach and say, no, when he says he feels sick, he actually is just a bit nervous because he doesn't know you yet. But once he gets to know you, he'll be confident in you. He probably won't say that again.
Yeah. No, I just yell at him and kick a water bottle and don't, Shaun. I'm like the most unbearable dad on the touchline. "Shaun, come on. But no.
No, we like a bit of encouragement from the side. I think, like, you don't want parents screaming and shouting from the sideline. and you definitely don't want them shouting what to do. But a bit of encouragement and atmosphere, I'm all for that. I think that you want to encourage the kids and get them excited about it.
I can't encourage Shaun. I can't tell him what to do because I have no idea what's going on. I've spent every Sunday and Wednesday for this is like the 5th season now, isn't it, Shaun? Standing in a cold field, completely unaware of what's going on. And I just said, his coach said, you must have some idea now, Stuart. I said, every season you introduce a new rule. I said, this year they're throwing it in. Last year they couldn't throw it in. I said, now I've got to learn that again now. And he's like, oh, so I said, I've just learned with Shaun. So that's the only full rugby game I've ever watched is one of Shaun's. And the World Cup final in about 2000.
Good learning experience for you. You probably know more about rugby than I do. Football through and through.
Well, that was me. That was why I was a bit reluctant. Once football fell through, obviously, my mum's partner was saying, just take him rugby, Stu. Just something else. And I was like, well, but we play with football. And he says, but he's not doing it. I said, I know, but he wants to do football and I want to try and find him somewhere. And it was Shaun who decided when he went to high school, he said, I'm not going to try out for football. I'm going to try for rugby. And that's why it's made him feel included. I think it's the best thing he's done for his confidence. That and doing this podcast has really helped him. And he gets
that's brilliant. And I think that's another point about parenting is you need to be there to help the child or the teenager, whatever age they are, with what they want to do. So it's not, I'm his dad, we're doing football. Well, no, because he wants to do rugby. So as you say, you've got to be there to stand in the field getting cold and wet, but that's so that he can do his rugby, and that's what a good parent will do.
Because I know he's not academic, so whatever he says he wants to try, I say let's try it. And he said, like I said before, he said, can we do a podcast? And now I've got a podcast studio in my conservatory. And
that's brilliant.
This is like
he's lucky he's got such a great dad.
Well, I'm in quite a privileged position where I've got an half-decent job and I can afford it. I know, and I didn't. It's not an expensive setup we've got, but we don't know. This is our 38th episode now, isn't it, Shaun?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we've had you on, and we've had Calm Drinks and Adam Pearson off the telly and people like that, and we've had our mates on, and
impressive.
It's good. I find it really interesting talking to different people. So, and I know Shaun doesn't say a lot when we've got guests on, but he does listen. When we've finished, for about the next 3 days, he'll say, oh, they said this, or they did that, and they said this. And so he is taking it in. And I know people must think, I thought this was his son's podcast. I know that just does all the talk.
Yeah. No, I can see it. He's listening intently.
He does listen. So Bloomsbury Football, you established that in 2008. And did I read on your website that you have 3,000 children on the books? Or is that how many have gone through in total?
Good question. So 2018, not 2008.
Oh, is it 2018?
Yeah, so super recent. We're approaching 3 years. And yeah, so the 3,000 number, basically 2,000 of those are within schools each week. So we will go into primary and secondary schools and basically run football programs for them. As you probably know, like especially with primary schools, they just don't have the funding or the expertise to deliver good quality sports sessions. So we will go in there with coaches who are trained at delivering good sports sessions and run them for those kids so that they get one, like a high quality session where they actually exercise and enjoy it. But two, hopefully it makes them, I guess, fall in love with sport and want to play outside of school. So that's a massive part of what we do. Then the other 1,000 is kids who attend outside of school, whether that's weekday evenings, weekends, and holidays, basically. So yeah, it's a big operation. It's grown so quickly. And I guess that just shows how many kids there are in London that want to, well, I guess all over the country, but we're based in London, that want to play football. And if you run something that's well organised and good quality and you make it accessible to everyone, you're going to get loads and loads of kids come along because people want to play sport and enjoy the benefits that sport brings.
Yeah, a mate of mine runs, is it SK Sports, Shaun?
Yeah.
What Joe does. And that's based in Stockport or Cheadle in Manchester. And that they've grown real quickly as well. And he loves it. He's always been that, like, since he was a little kid, football mad. And I just know him from going to the match with his dad and his mum and that. But yeah, so with it being so big, are you going to expand throughout the country, or are you just going to stick to London, or where do you want to take it?
We're having this discussion internally at the moment. So, like, we're only just scratching the surface, is what I say. Like, people are, oh, you've got so many kids, it's so big. There's so many more kids. We're literally just scratching the surface. We could open lots more programs and sessions like in the areas that we're running in. So obviously London has lots of different boroughs that split up into. We mainly operate in 3 of those boroughs. So there's so many more boroughs that we could go into. But even then, there's loads more we could do just in the boroughs that we're already in. So we're working out, like, do we do more where we already are? Do we like do less but spread out more across London? And then, like, is there maybe a plan to offer something similar, as you say, like in Manchester or another kind of city in the UK? So not really sure at the moment. I guess there's so much more we can do on our doorstep that it's almost like, why go elsewhere when there's loads more kids that basically want to play around the corner.
But that's it. And like, do you just target mainly the underprivileged areas? Because I know London's the capital city and it is quite a wealthy city, but it's also like Manchester, these big pockets of children that are underprivileged and obviously can't afford to pay the big teams the money that they want to train them and stuff like that. So is that where you mainly target, or do you just everywhere?
Yeah. So London, obviously, as you say, it's like so diverse. It's even more mixed in than maybe in Manchester. So Manchester, you've got like particular pockets that are like very wealthy or very deprived. Whereas London, like the same street can have £1 million houses and then like all social housing on the other side. So pretty much all the areas that we do run, wherever that would be in London, we get a big mix of kids coming along. So we get kids who are like literally children of millionaires, and then children who can't afford 50p, don't have a pair of football boots to play in, and have never really done anything outside of school because their parents haven't even considered it because there'd be no spare money to do any activities. And I think that is one of the big things that, like, I guess that's part of the experience of what we do, is bringing kids together from different backgrounds. So it's not only just like making sure that every kid can participate, even if they can't afford to. It's actually the experience they get meeting kids from different backgrounds. So a child who's really wealthy and goes to a private school may grow up, and outside of his football, he'd actually never meet a kid from a background where they can't afford to go to a private school, and vice versa. And growing up, seeing kids from these range of backgrounds, speak different languages, look different religions, means that these kids grow up with that empathy for others, and understand what it's like to be different. And again, that is particularly relevant for the disability angle as well, of like children in mainstream sport who don't have a disability understanding, oh, this kid's disabled, but actually he's not that different from me. He can participate in the session. I get how he's different, but I'm gonna make sure that he feels included and enjoys the session just as much as I do. So being able to mix young people from different backgrounds, different who've had different life experiences to come together and share them is basically what we do. And like, that's the amazing thing about football, of bringing people together.
Yeah, all sport really, but like to have that wealthy kids and the not so wealthy kids coming together, they're like our future leaders. So if you've got like a millionaire's kid, more likely to go on to be someone higher up within the country or within a business, it's good to have them where they have the knowledge and the understanding that not all kids that live in social housing are this or that. The good kids, they're just the same. The parents don't have the same means, and so it's good because then they're not, they don't grow up to be snobby and things like that. And
exactly that, yeah.
Understanding.
It's having the empathy and just being aware that you're exactly the same. You just haven't had the same opportunities, and understanding that not having those opportunities has meant that they have different levels of, they could be wealth, opportunity for jobs, whatever that might be, education. But being able to understand that is the most important thing, because then, as you say, you don't grow up snobby. You have an appreciation for why other people are different.
Yeah. It's kind of like how Marcus Rashford wants the school meals thing, because he grew up in Wythenshawe, which is an underprivileged area within Manchester. Well, then he went your school, didn't he, Shaun?
Yeah.
Where we live, we live in the social housing estate, but Sale itself is quite an affluent area. So the school that United aligned themselves with, where Shaun goes, is quite a good school, and they have quite a few well-off kids, but they also have kids off the estate as well, who they're all from all different places. So he's seen it firsthand. He's lived at Button Lane Primary School, needing to have the dinner ticket to get his dinner. And then he's also witnessed kids having the dinner ticket at school, at secondary school, but also being around kids that have got money as well. So I think that's where he's coming from. But it's good.
Yeah, it's brilliant that he's using his platform to speak about these things and make people aware of them. Again, it comes back to that point of like athletes and people with influence doing more and coming out and saying these things, because a lot of people aren't aware, for example, that children on free school meals during the holidays don't get the lunch that they would get when they're at school. So what do they eat? Like, their parents haven't accounted for having to buy and make extra food. If they're out at work, well, they don't have lunch. So that is something we're also doing. So during our holiday programs, for example, this week where we've got Easter holiday courses on, we've got essentially like cookery kit boxes that every child who's on free school meals that comes along will get to take with them, because we understand that when they're not at school, they may not have someone who can make them a packed lunch for the next day.
Yeah.
And I think that again comes back to that point of like the children who are privileged and will get lunch during the holidays every day, and they've never even considered that they might not actually go, oh wait, this boy or girl who's kind of in my team and I see every week, I didn't realize that like his mum and dad can't afford to make him a lunch every day. Like, I didn't even think that was a thing. I assumed every kid just had food on the table.
Yeah.
So it's brilliant that he's come out and raised the awareness of that. And yeah, I think it's definitely something that organizations, schools need to consider, how they make sure that these kids are fed going forwards with a kind of organized system that is fair, but gets to the people that need it most.
Yeah, well, that's like your organization mixing with the wealthy kids and the not so wealthy kids, and then when they grow up, they have that empathy, because you got people in charge of the country now, they're just millionaires, and they've just been millionaires their whole life. They've never seen a kid with a dinner ticket, and so that's why they don't understand that, oh, that kid needs dinner, because his parents might still have to go to work every day, and he's in the house on his own, but he's only 12. And he can't really cook himself any dinner because he doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah, it might burn the house down. Definitely don't let him start cooking if he's 11 or 12. No, I completely agree. And it's a difficult. I get it. I understand, obviously, from the government side, like what's the best way to go about it, because also just giving people an extra bit of money to buy food doesn't necessarily mean that parent buys food with that money.
True.
But then, like, do you give a voucher to the child, but then the child has to go to the shop? Does an 11-year-old, like, are they able to go to Tesco and buy themselves lunch? Like, are they even allowed to leave their flat when the parents at work? So yeah, there's a lot of kind of hurdles to overcome, but it's definitely something that's really important, and we need to figure out how to do it best.
Grassroots sport is where these things start, like yourselves and SK Sports in Manchester. They're encouraging people just to be around different types of people is definitely the way forward as a nation going forward, I think. But back to you, and enough of the politics. What, you are the Sports Industry NextGen Leader for 2021. Is that right? What is it? I couldn't find. I don't.
Yes, it's like a 30 under 30. So there's a cohort of us. It's not just me on my pedestal. It's so there's a group of 30, basically young people. I call myself a young person, aged under 30 who have been selected because they are, I guess, doing well in the sports industry. So there's others who are in a sort of similar sorts of organizations and positions where they're running kind of like sports charities. So there's someone who coordinates the volunteers for cricket across the country. So running like community cricket programs. There's people at like sports marketing agencies, people at Formula One, the Premier League. So it's a range of people that they bring together. And then they want to kind of work with to improve our skills. They'll put on like workshops, training events, networking events, speakers, because they want, obviously, the future leaders, you say, like people coming through, so that in 10 years, 20 years, they can make sure that the sports industry is doing as well as it should and sport is promoted in the right way and as many people participate as possible. So yeah, it's really, really good to be a part of. And I've already kind of learned loads, and I'm enjoying speaking to the other people on the course as well as the mentors.
Yeah, that sounds really, really interesting. So it's just like a one people to watch for the future kind of thing, and to help.
Kind of, yeah. It's like, so they do one each year. So like I'm on the 2021 cohort, and then next year they'll, like, you apply and you say, this is what I'm doing, this is what, like, how I'm involved in sport. And then they'll pick, they think, like the best 30 who are making like the biggest difference in sport, I guess. And then, yeah, work with them over a year and then bring through the next group. So yeah, it is kind of like you could say a one to watch. So it goes back, I think the first cohort was like 2017. So you can go on the website and see like, right, these were the 30 in 2017. Oh, wow, that person's now like the chief executive of this, or like has set up this amazing sports organization. So it's kind of nice to see that like people who are kind of on it have then gone on to be successful and make a big difference, which is great.
Yeah. Did you see Dizzy Rascal had aligned himself with a football club in London?
I hadn't, no. Is that a team he supports, or?
So like a grassroots thing, I think. Now, I saw it on his Instagram. I don't know if it was just with his album launch, but he gave him kits with E3 on the back. So I don't know where E3 is. Is that Bow or something?
That is somewhere around there, yeah.
Yeah, that's where he's from. So I don't know.
You know London better than me.
I just know Dizzy Rascal.
No, I hadn't seen that at all. But that's brilliant. That's, again, that comes back to that point of like people with an audience kind of doing good with their followers and people that look up to them.
Yeah. Is Bloomsbury Football completely free, or is it optional or whatever?
Good question. So basically all of the programs we run, we charge a fee. And if you are happy to pay that fee, you pay it. And if not, then we'll subsidize your place down to like a case by case or full bursary place. So we basically make sure that everyone is kind of comfortable and happy with what they're paying. And the way it works is that if you need financial assistance, you fill out a financial assistance form. There's certain criteria, like if you're on free school meals, you immediately get a full bursary. But essentially, we will have a conversation and make sure, like we'll work with that parent and family to make sure that they can definitely attend no matter what they can afford. So we've never turned anyone away from taking part. And that money in total of like people paying something, what they can afford, makes up like 60% of the overall cost of running the organization. And then the rest is from grants that we apply to, people who give donations, and then sponsorship. So companies that like what we do and want to support young people to take part in sport. So that's something we're always looking to grow, because essentially the more funding we can get, the more children from disadvantaged backgrounds we can subsidize and give opportunity to.
Definitely. Because the SEN kids will automatically be put on a pupil premium type thing, won't they, at school? Because I remember it happened to Shaun, and I rang the school and I was like, why are you giving Shaun his cookery ingredients? I said, I don't need you to pay for Shaun's cookery. I can afford to pay for Shaun's cookery. And he said, no. I said, Stuart, it's just one less thing for Shaun to remember and for you. And he gets it. The government give it the school for the SEN kid. He said, so just accept it. So that's what they do for him. And he doesn't pay like books and stuff like that. But I always feel quite bad because I can afford to pay for his books. I'll go work full time. I've got quite a decent job as a train driver. And so I feel like that money should really go to the kids that can't afford it.
For
the
sure.
parents that can't afford it, but they just get split between all the SEN kids, apparently.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Like, at the end of the day, I guess there's going to be people that slip through, but whatever process they put in place for these things, yeah, there are going to be people who are like, I could actually afford to pay for that. Or at the other end of the spectrum where like, no, you're not getting free school meals, but actually like they're a single mum and like they might be just above the income bracket, but they're really struggling and they actually really do need it. So it's difficult unless you do it case by case. We try not to be like intrusive with the process. So we don't want to get to a situation where we're like, what's your household income? Like, what's your husband earn? Like, you're spending far too much money on this. You can easily afford the fees, all this sort of stuff. Because at the end of the day, like, it's so difficult to tell someone you can or can't afford something because it's up to them what they spend their money on. So if they want to buy 10 packs of fags a week, well, like that's their decision to do so. And if that means they can't afford their kids' football, we're still going to subsidize that child because it's not the child's fault. No. They don't get to spend the money, their parent does. So we will use the government's vetting process, which is basically the free school meals, as one of the criteria for our process, because it means that we don't have to be too invasive with these parents and families. And as I said, like, we'll make sure that every kid can participate because it isn't the child's fault. It's not something they can influence or do anything about. It's their parents.
Do you encourage the kids to donate their old boots when they've grown out of them? So
we do, yes. We have we've actually got a scheme called Reboot, which was actually something that we didn't have when we started. So when we started, we knew that we'd have to kind of have a financial assistance process and subsidize the fees, but we didn't actually, probably quite naive for me, I didn't consider the cost of boots and kit. But quickly, within a few months, that was something we realized was like, wow, the fees are subsidized, but actually the cost to buy the shirt, like the tracksuit, and the cost to buy new boots, especially at the rate that kids' feet grow these days and how expensive a new pair of Nike boots is just ridiculous. It's a massive barrier. So we now subsidize their kit the same way we subsidize the fees. And with boots, we get all the kids to bring their boots that they've grown out of, or like boots that like their brother has, or from school, or whatever it might be, where like they might have not needed them, or any boots basically they don't need more. And then we will recycle them, essentially, put them on kids who can't afford to buy a new pair of boots every time. And it is quite, I guess, shocking actually, the amount of kids that turn up to like our football camps and they are in like school shoes, and we're like, well, where are your football? I don't have any football shoes. I'm like, oh, okay, well, that is it's something you don't even consider. But basically, yeah, like, why would their parent have £80 or £200 to spend on a new pair of boots? So that is something that we've started doing, and it's been pretty popular, to be honest. We've given out a lot of pairs.
Yeah, Sean's rugby club has a box, and we just go out of them, we just clean them and go and hand them in, and they got put
exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what we do.
And it's good even just for kids that are going to rugby to try it. They can wear the boots and they see if they like it, rather than the parents going out and paying for it. I make Sean buy his own boots these days because he's got pocket money, so he saves up for his own boots, don't you, mate?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, as a sports mentor, are you in schools or businesses, or where do you go mentoring?
So that was something quite recent. So there's an organization called Sported, and basically what they do is they link up sports clubs with people who have skills in particular areas and want to help sports clubs. So Bloomsbury, as an organization, have been a member of Sported for a couple of years, and like we've been receiving support. So for example, like, how do we market our programs? Cool. There's a marketing expert who works at this marketing company who'll give up an hour a week for 6 weeks to help us put together a marketing strategy. So that was something we've been using for 2 years, and we still do. Very recently, I've decided to basically give up some of my time to help other sports organizations. So obviously, I've been through the process of starting from scratch and building up Bloomsbury, registering as a charity, employing people, running programs. And I feel like in order to give more people the opportunity to take part in sport and have a better experience, there's only so much Bloomsbury can do. But like, if I can give my time to help other sports organizations to improve what they do, then that's a really, I guess, like high return on investment for my time. Like if in 2 hours I can show someone like how to do their budgets so that they're sustainable and don't go bust, then like that club might stay running for an extra 5 years and impact an extra 5,000 people just from a few hours of my time. So that's something that I've started recently. I really, really enjoy it. It's a bit like speaking to you guys, just like meeting other people who love sport and chatting about Bloomsbury and what they do and what their projects are and what they have on, and just trying to help and share things that I've learned. I'm definitely not an expert, but I've got a bit of experience having been through all this stuff myself. So people who maybe haven't been through it yet, but are about to, or people who have and it's gone wrong or want help or want to chat it through, then yeah, that's something I'm kind of lending some of my time to at the moment.
It's kind of like paying it forward, isn't it? And if more clubs end up like being well run, like Bloomsbury, and more inclusive, then it's all benefit around the country then, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, that's the point. It's like, I want to spend my time obviously making Bloomsbury as good as possible and giving as many opportunities. But I know that like we can then use Bloomsbury as a platform and me to help others do the same, as you say. And like, even you could get 10 clubs together with the people that run them and like have a session where we all share like how we best run our training sessions. And everyone in that hour gets some great knowledge from all the other clubs that they didn't have previously. And you raise the whole standard of all of those 10 clubs training sessions in an hour. So yeah, I think it's super important. And like, it's probably something that in the future, like I want to put more time into, because I think I can make more of an impact by doing that than Bloomsbury can itself.
Yeah. You only have so much time though. You can't do everything.
No, it's true. I dedicate a lot of time to, I guess it's called work, but I don't call it work because I love it. So yeah, most of my time is spent doing Bloomsbury and helping others. I don't really switch off, but that's fine because
that's it. That's good. That's how you are.
Yeah.
You know, that's it. It's good. So Shaun says you're an Arsenal fan.
He is correct.
And you've got a question about some kind of football, aren't you, Shaun?
Yeah. How did you get in for playing futsal?
How did you get involved playing futsal? Because we read that you was quite good at that.
You've done your research.
We know.
Found out I'm an Arsenal fan and that I play futsal. Wow. I actually got involved at university, so quite late for, I guess, starting any sport really. As I said, like I never played football at any good level, but I'd always way prefer like small-sided, so like 4, 5, 6 aside. Then I had 11 aside, I guess, just being not very powerful, quick, strong, athletic, etc., meant that I was probably always better in small-sided games. I also just liked, you get a lot more touches, you're a lot more involved when it's basically less people on a pitch. So when I got to university, it was like, right, you can either go and do football trials, or there's this thing called futsal, which is in a sports hall, it's 5-a-side. And I was like, cool, I'll go and try out. I think I got an offer to do like 3rd or 4th team football because that was how rubbish I was. And I got offered to do futsal. There were 3 teams. I started off in the 3rd team. I was like, I'll give futsal a go. So basically started off in like the university 3rd team. The nice thing about uni is that you get to train and play like quite a few times a week, as well as kind of strength and conditioning and gym sessions. So you quickly get up to speed. We were training like 4 or 5 times a week, which was brilliant. And just kind of worked my way up. So like was in the 3rds, then got into the 2nd team. By 2nd year, I was like on the brink of playing in the 1st team for futsal. And just worked my way up really. Really enjoyed playing at uni. Finished uni and started playing national league. So there's a university league and then there's kind of like national league, the equivalent of the Premier League, but for futsal. And that's for a team in London who I play for at the moment called Pro Futsal. And yeah, it's even at the highest level in this country, it's amateur. So it's not paid. So it's essentially a hobby, but I do give up a lot of time for it. It's like 3 weekday nights training and Sundays up and down the country because it's national in the top division. The way the league works is it's central venues. So you have like all the 8 teams in the Super League, it's called, come to like Manchester, let's say, and they'll play at 11, 1, 3, 5 o'clock on that day rather than like home and away.
Yeah.
So that's the format. Still playing at the moment, obviously with indoor adult sport not being allowed. It's happening outdoors, which isn't really futsal. There's this one outdoor futsal court in London that we're using at the moment for training and games. So that's, I guess, close enough that it's still futsal-ish. But as soon as we can get back indoors, which is the 17th of May, I believe, then we'll be back to kind of training properly and playing, which is exciting. And I guess it's nice for me to have that hobby, even though it's so similar to my job. It's like football, then football again in the evenings. It is a nice kind of break when I'm playing and when I'm focused as a player in the session rather than like running the session. You forget about all the other things that you have to worry about when you're organizing it, which is really, really nice. So yeah, I definitely want to keep up playing.
Do you never look at your coach and think, I won't do that?
All the time. But on the flip side, the opposite, I also look, we're very lucky. We're obviously one of the top teams in the country. We've got a very, very good coach. So there's a load that I also learned from him, probably more so that I learned than I think I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's very, very good.
So back to Arsenal. Arteta, would you keep him or let him go?
Keep him.
Yeah,
Easy.
I like him.
I like him as well.
Do you think he's going to stay if you don't win the UEFA Cup?
Now that's a difficult question.
Because that's the only way they're going to qualify for Europe next season, isn't it now?
Yeah, we're miles off. I do, yeah. I think, or I like to think that our board have understand that Arsenal as a club and the financial resource we have, I agree we're underperforming this season, but we shouldn't be able to compete with Man City, with Chelsea and Liverpool to an extent in terms of the amount of money that they have at their disposal. So if we finished 4th every year for the next 5 years, I actually think that's probably 4th or 5th is achieving about what Arsenal should achieve. 9th, where we are, 10th isn't good enough, but like we're overachieving if we're pushing for the league, in my opinion. So I'd probably stick with Arteta. I think he's good. Definitely some dodgy signings over the last 2 years. Have a look at our recruitment policy. I think Leicester's a great example of a club who have recruited incredibly well and have brought in players who are basically better than what they've paid for them, underpriced essentially. But yeah, I'd definitely stick with him.
They could invest though, Arsenal, couldn't they? There is money knocking about. It's got to be now. The ground's paid for. And I know they use that as a reason for a few years. Oh, we're paying the ground off. But that's got to be done now. And they must have the money knocking about somewhere.
They do. I think the problem the difference with Arsenal is like there's money, but we have to, at the end of the year or at the end of a few years, we have to balance our books. So we can't finish the season with 50 million in debt because, well, who's paying that 50 million? Chelsea, Man City, Abramovich, here's 50 million. I'll cover the debt. It's fine. I don't want anything in return because I run it as a hobby and it doesn't matter to me. And that is, unfortunately, the difference. And until financial fair play is actually enforced, which coming out of COVID, I doubt it's going to be because any money going into football is much, much needed.
Scrapped it, aren't they?
Well, kind of, yeah.
They scrapped it because Barcelona can't afford to play the players. So
can't afford to pay their debts. Yeah, they're in millions of pounds, well, hundreds of millions of pounds of debt. So yeah, until that's enforced, where you can't have an owner that just goes, oh, here's 100 million. I don't want anything from it. Go and spend it, enjoy, go and buy all the best players you want. Then it's very difficult to compete where you have to balance the books.
Surely that's we're City fans, right? So surely that's a good thing where you have an owner that comes in, like our owner. I agree that we're very lucky. I've been watching City since 1987. I have seen some utter dog shit. and I've watched us nearly go bankrupt about 900 times.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
so when we took over in 2008, I go with my stepdad and Shaun. My stepdad said, Stu, let's just enjoy it because City will fuck this up. And so let's enjoy the ride. And to be fair, the owner's quality. He's invested in the whole area of Manchester.
Yeah.
And the money that he's putting in football is staying in football. It should be staying in football. Whereas you look at United, they have an owner that took over probably the richest club in the world, saddled them with a load of debt, and every year takes dividends. Surely the model at City, where City now run in profit, is got to be a better model.
I guess, yeah, what the best model is a separate debate as to whether a club like Arsenal, in terms of their financial backing, should be able to compete with City. So, for example, like if Arsenal had Sheikh Mansour with his funds, then we should be pushing for the league. The problem with that model is that it's not sustainable at the point where Sheikh goes, well, I'm bored of running Man City. It's been fun for a few years, but I'm going to go and buy a rugby club or just head off and not spend there. That's where you don't have a sound commercial model that means that you're sustainable and you're not reliant on your owner. And that's where that's risky. But at the moment, it's working amazingly well because he is happy. He is backing it. You've got a great club. You've recruited well. And yeah, I mean, this season recently, a few dodgy results, but overall over the last few years, it's been great.
I can't fault it.
Very jealous that I'm not a Man City fan.
City do say now, though, they commercially run a viable business, and that if Sheikh Mansour left tomorrow, we will be all right because of the they've got sponsorship deals all over the world and own other clubs in different countries. And I don't know if that City football group is all above board or what. I'm not really sure. And as a fan, I don't really care. And
that is the thing. I mean, most fans just want to rock up and, wow, we've got a great team. It's exciting game. We won. We're pushing for the league. That's what they care about. But yeah, I think, would they be able to survive? Yeah, probably. Would they be able to go out and splash 80 million on Haaland without Sheikh?
No.
But that's obviously what the fans want.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to do it this year anyway. I don't think they're going to, from all the noises they're making, they're not just going to say, because they think they've lost like £100 million or something because of COVID. And
yeah. That's why I don't see financial fair play getting enforced, because they want money into football. Anyone who's going to throw money at football at the moment, they need, because it's lost so much recently.
Yeah, really. It's sad, really, not being able to go to the game, but you know, it's soon. Yeah, Charlie. Right, I know you're a very busy man and your time's valuable, so we'll let you go. But it's been a blast, and I've learnt loads, and it's been enjoyable listening to you talk about something you're so passionate about. So thanks for linking up with us and coming on, and hopefully we'll speak to you again soon.
Absolute pleasure. Really enjoyed getting to know and meet you guys. I think it's a brilliant little podcast you've got going, born out of a great idea. Hopefully speak again in the future. Keen to follow you about your progress.
Before you go though, if somebody's listening and they think, oh, I want to donate to send some boots to him, or I want to get my lad involved or my daughter involved, where can they find you or Bloomsbury Football? Great question.
Website, Google Bloomsbury Football. Hopefully we come up top of the search. Otherwise, feel free to reach out to me. LinkedIn's probably the best place. Just drop me a message. Always keen to chat to people and meet people and speak about what they do and what I do. So
perfect.
Pleasure.
We'll link it all into this, your Instagram and all that and everything on the show notes to this today, and hopefully it will go well. And we'll be out. The audio version of the episode will be out tomorrow, so Wednesday morning. So I'll send you a link to that as well. And if you want to share it about with your mates, feel free.
Definitely. Yeah, no, we'll do. I'll speak. So we've got a guy who works for us who does kind of like our marketing and social media stuff. So I'll get him to post it out and promo it.
There will be a YouTube video as well, but I haven't got because Sean's at my girlfriend's house and I use my girlfriend's Adobe Suite to edit the. I can't do it tonight, so I'm just going to do the audio version, and that'll be out tomorrow morning, and then probably Thursday.
Perfect.
But I'll send them both to you as soon as they're released, and everything will be linked on our website as well.
Brilliant.
Perfect,
Pleasure,
mate.
guys.
Thank
Have a
you very
great
much.
evening.
And you, mate. Thanks very much.
See you soon.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye. Sean, it's good, that, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Did you like it?
Yeah.
You asked a couple of good questions there, mate. I see you were getting a bit tired and a bit restless, though. Yeah, I saw you. But let's speak me and you a bit now. If there was a club like that in Manchester when you were little, do you think you would have stayed doing football?
Yeah.
Yeah, because there wasn't when you played football, there wasn't anything like that that we could find, was there?
No.
No.
I'd still do it on a Saturday.
Yeah, I know you would still do
Something
it.
like futsal.
Something like futsal.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, maybe when you go college, then maybe see if they do futsal or five-a-side football as well as the rugby or something like that. And like you did at school when you learned something new, maybe when you get to college, keep your little rugby thing going as well, and see if there's another sport you can learn.
They might do an SEN thing too.
They might do, mate. Yeah, but there will be more things because you're going to be going to an SEN section of the college. There will be more things for you there. But I know you want to learn and stay practicing golf and everything. So we'll just keep trying to plug on with everything we can, what we've got time for. Can you remember what the website is, mate? So you can tell people where they can find us?
No.
No, it's dadsandladspod.co.uk. All our contact information is on there. If you go on there, you get the links to our social media and to every single episode. It's all linked on there as well. If you would be so kind and if you liked what we are doing, please go onto iTunes or the Apple Podcast app and leave us a positive 5-star review. And we also have a buy us a coffee link as well. If you're so inclined, you can buy us a brew. You don't have to. It's just a bit of fun. But yeah, that's how we're going to try and fund our coffee addiction. All right.
And you forgot to say to Charlie, do the thing on our website. Right.
Charlie doesn't need to go on our mailing list because I already have Charlie's email address. So yeah, he will already be going in the mailing list. So I can sign him up.
No, I mean what we did, type something up for the website.
Oh, the bio?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's done it. He's already done it for me.
What about Jay? Everyone did.
Badger, I've not done Badgers yet though, but we've done Adam Pearson's is on. And this is our website now, people. Adam Pearson's is on. Charlie's is on. I've got one for Kyle Walker for next week. So yeah, we're all good. But
Tino or Jay or Badger?
Not yet, mate.
You do Badgers now.
Yeah, I'll do it. Don't worry.
Don't forget it.
Sean?
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure. Be good and go and have your tea.
See you tomorrow.